Well, the collapse of former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort's plea deal thrusting him back into the spotlight. Tonight, the president's again calling special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation a phony witch hunt waged by what he calls a gang of angry Dems. On Capitol Hill, Republican Senator Jeff Flake wants to protect Mueller, and he's trying to force the Republican leadership to bring a vote on that, or he says he's going to continue to block the cornerstone of the Trump presidency, which is the confirmation of conservative judges. Here's senior Capitol Hill producer Chad Pergram.
Republican Arizona Senator Jeff Flake wants his colleagues to inoculate Robert Mueller from presidential interference.
I ask unanimous consent.
Flake needed the blessing of all 100 senators to consider his bill to protect Mueller, but Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell blocked Flake.
Majority Leader, objection is heard.
Flake says he'll try the same tactic again on Wednesday. Better luck this time?
I don't know. I know that they've been trying to see if the votes are there for it. So we'll see.
McConnell isn't concerned about Mueller's future. He doubts the president would fire the special counsel.
This is a solution in search of a problem.
Would you repeat what you did and object as they ask unanimous consent to bring that bill to the floor tomorrow like they did?
I probably would, yeah.
Flake won't back President Trump's judicial nominees unless his Mueller bill gets a vote. Republican gained Senate seats in January, but now there are only 51 Senate Republicans. One defection by Flake makes it harder to get nominees out of committee and confirm them on the floor. A key test vote for Flake comes as early as tomorrow, with a procedural vote on President Trump's nominee for the federal bench in eastern North Carolina. Judge Thomas Farr has ruled on controversial voting laws, earning him the ire of Democrats, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. There's also an effort to Velcro the Mueller protection bill onto a measure to avoid a partial government shutdown next week over the president's border wall.
I didn't know Robert Mueller needed protection. There's nothing out there doing. But I do know the southern end of our country needs protection.
Shannon, tonight, Republicans are trying to get clarity from Flake about this stand he's taking on the special counsel.
Chad Pergram, thank you very much. Senator Ben Sasse is a key member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, looking at this issue regarding protecting the special counsel and confirming judicial nominees. He's also been keeping a close watch on White House trade policies. Senator Sasse joins us now for more on our top two stories tonight. Senator, great to have you with us.
Good to be with you, Shannon. Thanks.
Okay, so let's start, because tomorrow you've got a hearing on a nominee that's generating some controversy. In the meantime, your GOP colleague, Senator Jeff Flake, says not voting on any judicial nominees until there's a vote on this measure that would protect the special counsel. And tonight, the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says it's, in search of a problem that doesn't exist. The president's not going to let him go. Where do you stand on that?
I think there are three big buckets of issues you just named. Judicial nominees between now and the end of the year, judicial nominees that haven't yet gone through committee, and the special counsel issue. So one of the things that President Trump has done a phenomenal job on is he's picked some really great judges. I think in the coalition that he put together in the 2016 election, a bunch of people were excited about the way he built a list about Supreme Court nominees and the kinds of judges he pledged to nominate, and he's done that. And we on the Judiciary Committee have set an all-time record at confirming circuit court judges over the last 2 years. I think we have 31 pending judges on the floor. So I think Senator Flake's threat/bargain doesn't touch those 31. And so we have a lot of votes pent up that we need to have happen over November, December. Then there are a bunch of judges that we're still trying to get through the Judiciary Committee. Chairman Grassley, our outgoing chairman, who's going to head over to Finance, would still like to move a lot, and a number of us would like to move a lot. And then there's the special counsel protection bill. I think that Bob Mueller's work is important and needs to be protected, but I don't think there's going to be a vote on that piece of legislation between now and the end of the year. There's just a lot on the calendar.
You think there should be?
It's not going to get through the House. So one of the most valuable limited resources in Washington, D.C. is Senate floor time. And so Leader McConnell is very rarely willing to spend Senate floor time on something that's not going to become law. And I don't think there's going to be any vote in the House.
Okay, so let's talk about now GM, this announcement about closing some plants, potentially 15,000 jobs in the mix, although they say many of these people could be transferred to other plants if that's what they choose to do. The president obviously not very happy, tweeting today about possibly taking subsidies away from them, although I believe that would require some congressional action to get that done. The truth is GM got a $51 billion taxpayer-funded, at least in part, bailout. Is it fair to say that they have some obligation to the American worker?
Well, first of all, let's just say to those 15,000 families, this is a tragic week. This is a rough set of news for people to receive, and so I think we want to grieve with those families. In addition, the long-term competitiveness of the auto industry is driven by, can you build higher quality, lower cost products than a lot of our competitors? And there are a whole bunch of inputs to that equation, and the number one thing that's happening in the automotive industry is more and more technology is automating processes, and over time, you're probably going to build cars with fewer labor inputs. And so there's a long-term trend here in the automotive industry that we're going to have to think about the future of work and future of labor stuff. In addition, the steel tariffs aren't helping. I've talked to auto industry insiders and executives over the course of the last 2 or 3 days, and clearly the steel tariffs have big negative consequences if you're trying to work in a car
What about
company.
the president's assertion that it's about the Fed? Their interest rates going up and other policies that he says are hurting his ability to try to do things to help American workers.
Yeah, I don't see that connection. The long-term pressures on interest rates are things like U.S. overspending and the fact that we're not building toward balanced budgets over the long term. So I think the Fed is probably the wrong bad guy for this equation.
Okay, a couple lightning round things I want to make sure we get to. Jesse Kelly, Twitter says he's back. And he's somebody that you said, listen, I don't always agree with this guy.
I think he despises me, so I think it's more than just
maybe it's both ways.
Yeah.
But you say the answer to offensive speech potentially is not less speech, it's more.
Yeah, so a couple distinctions are really important. One, Twitter is a private company. They're not the government. And so the First Amendment is a prohibition on government restriction of speech or religious liberty or association. And yet, the First Amendment is the beating heart of American life and American society. And when you encounter people that you don't agree with, usually the right answer is to talk to them longer and try to persuade them and listen to your neighbor and engage different kinds of arguments. And so right now, when we hear speech, when Americans are encountering speech they don't like on a college campus or on social media, they're acting like the first instinct is to shut people down or shut them down or deplatform them. That's a bad trend in American life. We need to embrace more vigorous debate. That's the American way to handle disputes.
Yeah, and when it involves the government, the Supreme Court is almost always unanimously on the side of free speech and the First Amendment. I want to ask you, though, about some poll results. These are informal. They're in the internet. It has to do with millennials, people 38 and under. But I was a little disturbed, and I imagine you would be, too. Half of those surveys believe the U.S. is sexist and racist. 1 in 8 millennials agree that America was never a great country, and it never will be. 84% of Americans can't even enumerate the rights enumerated in the First Amendment.
We're doing a bad job at teaching civics, and it's hard, in Ben Franklin's words, for a republic to be maintained if we don't pass along to the next generation an understanding of who we are and what we believe. America has limited government because government is about power. Government is about coercion, and most of the interesting things in life are about neighborliness. They're about love. They're about persuasion. And so the center of the world for Americans is supposed to be all the cities and towns and neighborhoods where your viewers are living, not Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is supposed to be a place that is public servants maintaining a framework for ordered liberty, but that means our people need to know the freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, protest. And if the next generation doesn't know it, the republic's in some danger, and we need to do a lot better civics than we're doing.
Yeah, and that's a nonpartisan issue. We can all agree on, hopefully. Senator, thank you for your time. Good to see you.
Thanks for the invite.